Hi everyone, I'm Chesh from Cheshire Plays Games, and this video is sponsored by Wizards. Thank you very much, Wizards, for the commander decks for this series of videos. What we're going to be going through is a number of things. The first one is we want to identify what the commander decks are really good at and how we can change them up on a $50 budget to make them work even better so that you can bring it to the table, play against people, and have a lot of fun. A few caveats here. The first one is that anything like fetch lands can't be done, because fetch lands are quite expensive, not everyone has access to them. So we're going to be trying to build around cards that you should be able to get your LGS pretty easily. Also, the one thing to remember is that even though there is a set commander that leads the deck, that is not actually the commander that will be leading this deck. Sometimes we'll actually be going and taking one of the secondary commanders and actually using those as a better option for the deck, such as the humans deck. So we'll get into that in just a second. We're going to talk about all of the resources that you can use to build your deck as well. First up, some resources. So the first one that you can look at for a good idea is EDHREC. So EDHREC.com is a great tool for you to have a look at other decks that are on the net. This will allow you to go through and have a look at maybe a couple of the commanders from the actual deck itself and get some great ideas on how you want to build the deck, such as this one for the human tribal deck. The other thing that you can do, of course, is have a look on Wizards' own site called Gatherer. From this, you'll actually be able to search up humans, for example. So your search criteria, you can fool around with it a bit and try and figure out what you might be missing from the deck that you perhaps want to have a look at, or what cards actually contain the text that relates around humans. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, and even though these decks out of the box are pretty good, let's go and have a look at what upgrades we can make to them so we can focus them a little bit more around what it seems like the deck wants to do. Let's go to that now. Hey everyone, today's deck is Symbiotic Swarm. Oh boy. The other nicknames you could probably give this is Oops All Keywords or Keyword Soup. They all pretty much fit. So what are we looking at? Well, in Magic the Gathering throughout history, some of the most powerful creatures have been based around certain keywords. You've got First Strike, Double Strike, Lifelink, Hexproof, Indestructible, just to name a few. Menace, I don't know, there's heaps. There's so many. So with this particular deck, this is all about the keywords. Having a look through the commanders, the first one that is the face commander, which is the one that we're going to be running through because it is the one that's most suited for the purpose we need it. This is 2 colors, 1 white, 1 black, and 1 green for Kathril, Aspect Warper. This is a legendary nightmare insect 3/3. When Kathril enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on any creature you control if a creature in your graveyard has flying. Repeat this process for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Indestructible, Life Link, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Kathril for each counter put on a creature this way. Holy schmozzles. This is just such a weird and cool idea. Basically, you just want all those keywords in your discard pile, your graveyard, because then when you play Kathril does some really neat stuff by giving all of those keywords to a creature, including itself, and then giving it that many +1/+1 counters. So you could even play this as a Voltron deck, so that you just like power up Kathril and nothing but Kathril, but you do need those other creatures to chuck in the bin, or at least enough creatures that you are getting all those keywords. The next commander out of the box is Tyam, Luminous Enigma. This is 1 colors, 1 white, 1 black, and 1 green for a Nightmare Beast. Seeing the theme here for nightmares, I sure am. This is also a 3/3. Each other creature that you control enters the battlefield with an additional vigilance counter. I don't know the wording here. It enters with an additional vigilance counter? Sure. And then, for 3, you can remove 3 counters from among creatures you control, and then put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, then return a permanent with a converted mana cost of 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So I guess you could call this like a mini Revelark. We don't really care that much about the text of getting the 3 costs back. I mean, that's kind of cool, don't get me wrong, but is it really necessary? Not really. The next one is our partner pair. This is Yannik Scavenging Sentinel. This is 2 colors, a green and a white. Partner with Nikara Lair Scavenger. Vigilance and 3/3. When Yannik enters the battlefield, exile another creature that you control until Yannik leaves the battlefield. When you do, distribute X +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures where X is the exiled creature's power. Now, you have to exile a creature that you control, but to be fair, you're getting a whole lot of +1/+1 counters, so that is kind of cool. Nikara Lair Scavenger. This is 1 black and 2 colors for a 2/2 human cleric. I know it's a human, right? Partner with Yannik, obviously. Menace. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, draw a card, and you lose a life. I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, you're just going to basically lose a life and draw a card. Nothing to write home about, but we're going to leave it in anyway because it's fine for what our deck does, and our deck is going to have a bunch of creatures that hopefully have counters from Cathril or something like that. So that's fine. The next thing we need to do, considering that we are going with a face commander, is we need to look through the deck and identify what we can take out. Well, the first thing we're going to take out is the Impetus cycle. Yep, you heard me. So, Predatory Impetus, Parasitic Impetus, and Martial Impetus, as you can see on the screen. These 3 are out of here. They do not do anything to advance what this particular deck wants to do. This deck wants keywords. They don't matter. The next one is a keyword creature, but it's a 1/3. This is Skullwinder. 2 colors and a green for a snake. Oh, it's a good snaky boy. Has Death Touch. When Skullwinder enters the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand, then choose an opponent. That player returns a card from their graveyard to their hand, and that's why we're taking it out. We don't want to benefit our opponent in any way. I don't think we need to. So we're just going to pull it. The next card we're taking out, of course, is Bonder's Ornament. I know at this point it's just basically become a meme. It's just not a great mana rock for our deck. Abzan Ascendancy. This is 1 white, 1 black, and 1 green for an enchantment. When Abzan Ascendancy enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Look, I appreciate the +1/+1 counters, don't get me wrong, but this doesn't really do a whole lot with our deck. Our deck's not based around +1/+1 theme. It doesn't even have really a sub-theme, so we're just going to remove it anyway. Speaking of +1/+1 counters, we have Together Forever. This is 2 white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, support 2. So put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And then for 1 colors, choose target creature with a counter on it. When that creature dies this turn, return that card to its owner's hand. It is good, but not good enough. If you're playing a +1/+1 counters Madness deck, absolutely, you are going to be running that. No worries. Mimica, 3 colors for an artifact with imprint. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may exile that card. If you do, return each other card exiled with Mimica to its owner's graveyard. 3 and tap, create a token that's a copy of a card, exile with Mimica. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. In our deck, this is just one of those cards that's not win more, win less. It's kind of a sum 0 for our deck, so we're going to take it out because it doesn't really do a whole lot. The same with Revelark, doesn't really do much. This is 4 colors and 1 white for a creature elemental with flying. It's a 4/3. When Revelark leaves the battlefield, return up to 2 target creature cards with a power of 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And it has Evoke for 5 colors and 1 white. It doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, don't get me wrong, I love graveyard synergy cards, and we are going to be putting some of those in here to make this deck stronger. Revelark, however, isn't really that way, because Revelark has such a specified drawback, being power 2 or less, that we're just going to skip it. It's just not for us. Speaking of skipping things, Sunblast Angel. Don't get me wrong, really happy this got a reprint. 4 colors and 2 white for a 4/5 Flying Angel. When Sunblast Angel enters the battlefield, destroy all tapped creatures. We don't want to destroy our creatures if we can handle it, to be honest. And Sunblast Angel just is very narrow in the way that it works. So I think we're just going to pull that all together and not worry about it. Alright, so now on to the upgrades. Now, first things first, obviously we took out the Bonder's Ornament because we feel like we don't really want to play a bad mana rock. We are, however, going to substitute it with the Indatha Trome. This is a land, plains, swamp, forest from Ikoria. Tap it to add a white, a black, or a green to your mana pool. Enters the battlefield tapped and has cycling 3. We've talked about these cycling lands. They are really great. Okay, actual literal card upgrades though. We decided to put a bit of a reanimation theme into this deck. Just a little bit, just to help us out. Put in a couple of cards that will actually allow us to dig down into the deck so that we can get stuff into our discard pile. The first one is Entomb. This is 1 black and search your library for a card and put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. You can tutor for any creature and just chuck it into a discard pile, which is pretty amazing. The next one we have up is Gravebreaker Lamia. This is of course from Theros. This is 1 black and 4 colors for an enchantment creature, Snake Lamia. Lifelink, 4/4. When Lamia enters the battlefield, search your library for a card and put that into your graveyard. Then shuffle your library. Spells that you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. We don't care about the 1 less to cast, but we absolutely want to use this just as a big 4/4 lifelinker that when you play it, it goes and grabs something out of your deck and just chucks it into your discard pile. Speaking of great ways to do that, we also have a copy of Buried Alive. This was originally printed in, I believe, Weatherlight from memory. I used to love this in my old grave decks. There used to be a whole heap of them, and it was just fantastic. This is 2 colors and 1 black for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards and put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Alright, so now that we know that we can do that, we can go and we can chuck some stuff directly into our discard pile. Maybe we want a way to reanimate them. I know, I couldn't help it, I'm sorry. This is 1 black for a sorcery. Put target creature card from a graveyard, anyone's graveyard by the way, onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to the converted mana cost. We also have a copy of Animate Dead. Basically, when you play Animate Dead, it enters the battlefield, and then you get a creature from your discard pile and enchant the creature with Animate Dead. That creature gets -1/-0, and if Animate Dead leaves the battlefield for any reason, the creature gets sacrificed. It's real wordy. It's so technical and it doesn't need to be. Dread Return. 2 colors and 2 black for a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Flashback. Sacrifice 3 creatures. That means that you may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost and then exile it if you really want to. Alright, so we got a little bit of reanimation package there. We also have an Eerie Ultimatum. This is 2 white, 3 black, 2 green for a sorcery. Return any number of target permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, obviously everything that's a permanent in your discard pile, save basic lands, are going to be different named. So, that's pretty cool. For keyword soup wise, we have Oketra the True. This is 3 colors and 1 white for a legendary creature, God 3/6. Has double strike and indestructible. Oketra the True can't attack or block unless you control at least 3 other creatures. For 3 colors and 1 white, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. This is pretty cool. The gods are all pretty good to just like chuck into your graveyard, into your discard pile, because once they're there, obviously they will lend the keywords to Cathrall. The last but not least is the Ozolith. This is 1 colorless for a legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, any kind of counters, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, then you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. Yeah, So all of those awesome +1/+1 counters, the Vigilance, the Death Touch, the Double Strike, the Lifelink, the Menace, all that stuff, the Reach, the Indestructible, that will all go on to another creature you control, which means the Ozolith in this deck is a VIP and very cool. Okay, so that's the deck. We've made some great upgrades to it. I feel like this is probably one of the funnest decks out of this set of Commander decks, to be honest. And I hope that you try it out and have some fun for yourself. And there you have it. The deck is upgraded. It's ready to go to be brought to the table and smash some face. Thank you very much, Wizards, for sponsoring this content, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to catch us every Sunday for Commander the Distancing, usually around 11 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time, where we have some great international guests coming up as well. Don't forget to check out my writing at puremtgo.com, where I do some freelance articles on Commander and sometimes on Brawl and Standard.